And welcome to another edition of the Blue Review.
You're French now?
I'm French
Is
now.
the
I
Olympics?
just got the Olympics on my mind all week. I know the sprinting is starting today, so super excited because USA's gold count and medal count is about to shoot through the roof.
Skyrocket.
So it's going to be crazy. And of course, the desktop over there, I left the volume on, so apologies. But welcome. We are back with, again, Jeff Spiegel, our good friend.
2 in a row.
From Dodger Blue. 2 in a row. Jeff, how you doing after, no baseball last night?
Hey, we didn't lose last night, guys.
That was what I was happy about.
Oh, Lord. Dodgers finally out of July. Their first losing really month since April of 2018. They went 11-13. So we honestly have a lot to get into, a lot to preview from this weekend. I'm going to toss it over to you guys. But before I do, I just want to remind everyone that you can see on Greg's hat. Of course, don't look at that shirt that he's wearing, but you can see that the hat above.
The shirt is amazing. This is the right shirt at the right time. That's all that matters.
You can see the hat. LAX. Those are our friends here, our sponsors here on the Blue Review. Los Angeles International Airport, of course, changing the travel experience, reducing traffic, saving guests time, and more. So if you want to learn anything about that, you can check it out at flylax.com/transforminglax. That's flylax.com/transforminglax. So guys, we got the A's this weekend. Whoop-de-doo. Maybe we can bounce back. We'll see.
Was that a whoopie-doo from Pepe?
Pepe. Whoop-de-doo. So first thoughts, Jeff, going into this series. I mean, you're seeing Gavin Stone on the mound tonight, and you're going to see Flaherty, make his debut. We're in probably for some good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to see the A's.
Oh,
the A's are the team you want to see on the schedule, even though, they've actually had a decent second half. I was just pulling it up. I think they've won 8 out of 12 in the second half of the season, but they're starting 3 guys that I'm guessing most people haven't heard of: Estes, Spence, and Bido. Not sure how to pronounce that last one. And we got Flaherty, River Ryan, and Gavin Stone in some order. So I like that you get the break, the 1 day off, clear your head after that disastrous Padres series, and try and get things back on track this weekend against the A's in Oakland.
Is that Sean Estes from the Giants from about 20 years ago? Is that who that is?
This would be a good radio bit for you guys today, Greg, if you wanted like a 5-minute segment of can anybody name the first name of how many A's players can somebody name first and last name?
Give them to me again. It's Estes. So Sean Estes.
It's not Sean Estes, believe it or not. Spence is the second one.
Which one?
Spence.
It's Victor Spence.
Not over 2. And Bido, apologies.
I know this one. It's Franz Bido. That's right.
Close. Joey Estes, Mitch Spence, and Osvaldo is the last one there.
So, Osvaldo. Okay. Yeah. All right. Nice. But either way, nobody's ever heard of any of those people, and they'll probably go there because we've never heard of them, Jeff. You know what happens? They're going to be Cy Young candidates for the next 3 days. That's just how this works out for the most part for the Dodgers. But also, I'm interested to see a lot of things that happen here. River Ryan on a third start. See what he can do if he can kind of stay within the zone, cut down on his walks. Jack Flaherty, seeing if he's actually doing very well with what we're going to get out of him, what his pitch mix looks like. So I know he has a knuckle curve that's actually supposed to be pretty devastating, and what he can look like in Dodger Blue and whether he can be that number 2 starter for sure. And then Gavin Stone being able to get to 6 innings again and trying to keep those runs down. That's kind of what I'm really hoping for, is that give me 6 innings, no more than 3 runs. I think to have a quality start is something that he really needs to show that he's not just a first half pitcher to me.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think that's what makes this series so interesting and exciting is there's a great storyline from a pitching perspective in each of these. You were the one that alerted to me. I mean, you look at Gavin Stone, he's allowed 13 runs in his last 4 starts, just 18 2/3. That was the month of July. So an ERA of almost 6.5. So you've got him trying to bounce back, trying to right the ship. He hasn't pitched in a week, so he's had a little bit of extra time off, which is great. Then you've got Flaherty, the new guy, and then you've got River Ryan, sort of the ascending stud that everyone's excited about. So it's fun when you walk into a series and every single day there's something like, okay, cool. I'm excited to watch Gavin Stone tonight. I'm excited to watch Jack Flaherty tonight, River Ryan. We've got that all weekend. So I think that's exciting.
Yeah, no, it really is. And also with especially with what's going on because of those 2 losses to the Padres and now only being 4.5 up in the division, and it kind of starts getting a little bit dicey. Yep. These are 3 games you have to win. I mean, I don't want to say it's a necessity to actually sweep the A's, but it kind of feels like it, doesn't it? Because if they don't, and the Padres are hot, if you lose a game or two and the Padres sweep their series, all of a sudden it's down to a game and 2.5 games or 3.5 games, and it starts getting really, really dicey. This is and as we talked about yesterday, the month of August is tough for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Very, very tough. So these 3 games are kind of important, no?
Yeah, Padres hosting the Rockies this weekend. So, you feel like anytime if the Dodgers slip up, Padres have won 9 out of their last 10 going against the Rockies, one of the worst teams in baseball.
Yep.
If they go 2-1, to your point, they might lose a game in the division over that stretch. So now I mentioned the A's have won 8 of their last 12. So A's are actually one of the hotter teams in baseball. Weirdly enough, Mason Miller, arguably their best pitcher, best player, definitely their best pitcher. Not going to be pitching in this one. They had a couple guys they sold at the trade deadline as well. So, 2-1 is the absolute bare minimum, but you would love a sweep just to right the ship, sort of cleanse the negative vibes out of this thing. And then you had to play the Phillies, who they're struggling. They've lost 4 in a row, I believe, at least heading into last night. So, there's a chance for the Dodgers to get this thing back on the right track, but there's not really a ton of margin for error.
No, not at all. And that Philly series is looming large, especially since they swept us in Philly just what was it, a week or two ago. So, but also they swept and then went on a massive losing streak, just like we went on a massive winning streak, winning 7 out of 10 and then getting swept by the Padres. But so hopefully the Padres do the same thing the Phillies did and just kind of are terrible against the Rockies, which doesn't seem likely.
Yeah.
But also, like, just about the Rockies real fast. Did they make any moves whatsoever at the trade deadline? Do the Rockies understand how the trade deadline works?
Yeah. They need to take notes from the Marlins. They had some guys that probably would have been of some value. And, I don't know. I always tell people, like, as bad as we think it is as a Dodgers fan, just be thankful you're not a Rockies fan. That, literally of any outside of the A's, I think the Rockies would be the second team that like I would least like to be a fan of, because even these other teams like the Marlins, I have friends that are Marlins fans. That's a depressing organization to root for because they're just terrible. But like at least they did it right at the trade deadline and sold everyone. The White Sox started to sell some guys. The Tigers sold some guys. So you look at the worst teams in the league around. I mean, the White Sox have lost 17 in a row, so maybe it's worse to be a White Sox fan. But you just look at some of these other teams who at least they suck and sold. It would be worse to suck and not do anything. No hope for the future.
Like nothing. I don't think they made one single move. They weren't trying to build for the future. They weren't trying to gain prospects. They weren't doing anything. Now, I don't know who's on that team that's even worth anything, but they did nothing. Like, why is Charlie Blackmon still on that team? Like, there's just seems like at some point a good, even a somewhat of an, at least the Angels actually moved their closer and got some prospects. They didn't do enough anywhere else, but at least they did something. I don't know. The Rockies, man, that's just bad. Why would anybody want to be a Rocky? Like, how are you going to even sell your franchise to somebody, to a star? It's wild to me.
Yeah. I think they did move like a reliever or two, maybe they added a couple minor leaguers, but I mean, nobody that is worth noting. They have guys like Ryan McMahon who probably could have been traded for something. They just have mishandled even when they sign contracts. Like they go out and get Chris Bryant and that's a bust. Like, why don't they do what the Tigers did? Just go sign some of these guys on 1-year deals and then see if Jack Flaherty pops, boom, you trade him for some significant prospect capital, the next year. Like those are the types of trades that are deals that I would try to be making if I was the Rockies. But, they never seem to do the things that everybody else thinks is the right thing to do.
No, not at all. But this is not the Rocky review. This is the Blue review, so we can go back to the Dodgers. I think there's something that's happened, Jeff, and I'm gonna blame you. I'm starting to come around on a position that I was very, very strong on. I don't know if I believe it anymore. I think I have to kind of change my position, and that's okay. It's okay to change your position every once in a while. I believe that Mookie Betts truly in his heart wants to be an infielder. I absolutely believe that. I think he wants to come back and he wants to be the shortstop and Gavin Lux to be the second baseman. I think that's what he wants. I'm coming around. I think by the time we get to the postseason, maybe even by September, I think he has to be in right field. There just doesn't seem any other way around it. And I think you were one of the reasons why, like how you placed it yesterday, how some of the other people that I've talked to and how just really sitting down and thinking about it, what's best for the team.
Yeah.
I think he has to move back to right field, and I think it's something that probably will happen.
Well, first of all, I want to say it's big of you, Greg, to be open to change and to be open
You
to
have
move in
to.
here. We're not all the way there because I said Mookie in center field, which you still said you can't get there yet. So
I can't
we're
get there yet.
we're halfway there. I said it's my hot take that Mookie should play center field, but I think to your point, there's kind of the ideal scenario of like what would we do if we were starting a team from scratch and what position would we have Mookie play, which is a fine conversation to have, but it's just not the world that we live in. And so you look around and you say, okay, first base taken care of, third base if Muncy comes back taken care of, and Mookie can't play third anyways. And then you get to second base, which the way Gavin Lux is playing seems to be taken care of, especially because you could platoon him with Ahmed Rosario, and it's kind of, take Lux out against lefties, put Rosario in there, and that makes a lot of sense. I suppose Mookie could play second base in that scenario. And then you look and say, okay, what are the three biggest question marks on this team? It's shortstop, it's right field, and it's center field. Now, you've got a guy in Tommy Edman that can play center field or shortstop. You've got Miguel Rojas. If he comes back healthy, he's an option at shortstop. Rosario can play right field. You've got Andy Pages. You got Kevin Kiermaier. Like, you've got mix and match. And so I just believe that the best version of this Dodgers team has Mookie Betts in the outfield. I personally believe the best version of this team is Mookie playing center field, Tommy Edman playing shortstop, and then Ahmed Rosario and somebody like Andy Pages platooning in right field. Do I think this is going to happen? No. But as far as give me the best lineup, offensive defense combination that it can possibly have, I just really believe that that's what it would look like.
So I agree for the most part. I'm still not able to get to Mookie in center. It just doesn't. I just can't see that one happening.
Sure.
I do believe that Tommy Edman, as we talked about yesterday, was a center. He was the starting center fielder for the Cardinals. That's where he was supposed to play. He's a good defensive center fielder. He's going to be the guy that I think they play day in and day out at center field. And that's where now you have right field and shortstop that are the issues. If Miguel Rojas does come back, Miguel is probably going to be basically the everyday shortstop with Ahmed Rosario or Nick Ahmed filling in those kind of in that spot there, because Ahmed's actually a good defensive shortstop, whereas Ahmed Rosario we've seen is just not that guy. But you have to get his bat in, especially right now. The problem that I see for the most part is that it's hard because Gavin Lux has been playing so well. And this is not a shot at Gavin Lux, but Gavin Lux has been playing so well for the last month. But he has one position. He can only play second base. And that's kind of dangerous for this Dodgers team. And now you're telling me that he's going to be a platoon second baseman because he can't hit lefties. And now you're changing everything because the one guy that you can play at second base has to be at second base.
Yeah.
I don't know. That to me does not fit for this Dodgers team. So even though he's playing well right now, I don't see that boding well for him in the future and in the offseason.
Yeah, I think, the piece that's working in his favor is that he hasn't been league average offensively. He's actually been really, really, really good. And so if this is a guy that's well above average offensively against righties, which, by the way, you're going to see 75 to 80% righties, I believe is the stat. So it's going to be mostly righties. So if the platoon side he's on is at least the majority side, he's been really good defensively. I know he had 2 errors the other night. I think he had like 4 errors all season, makes 2 in one night on Kershaw night. So that wasn't great. But look, the Dodgers are in a spot where they still don't have too many good players. So if you have a guy in Gavin Lux who's good defensively and good offensively, you kind of don't mess with it. You kind of say, hey, we'll take that. If he's going to be an above average player offensively and give us, above average defense at second base 80% of the time, and then we have to put Rosario in there against lefties. Like, again, those two are kind of the perfect platoon fit. Rosario's been above average offensively against both righties and lefties, but he's been better against lefties. And so I just think that one makes sense. And you can kind of cross second base off the list of positions you've got to worry about. Because as we've said, even with Muncy at third base, right field, center field, these are all positions with huge questions, shortstop included. And so thankfully, second base is one less that I think they're going to have to worry about and kind of plan around moving forward.
And that's kind of the point of it all with when it comes to Mookie. And that's kind of where my mind started to change about him going back to right field. I truly believe he does not want to play there. I don't think he ever wants to be in the outfield again. But because he's a guy that's not going to be too, he's not going to fight you over it. I don't think he's going to fight Dave and Andrew like, hey, I will not play right field. I think he's going to do what's best for the team, especially to win a championship or have the best chance to win that championship. He'll go to right field because he's not going to be the everyday shortstop. We've seen what he is at shortstop. He's not great defensively or not even good defensively. And when you have multiple guys that can all do that, it changes everything. So right field is kind of the only place he can because of that Gavin Lux situation. And so we're just going to have to see where it goes. I think I have to change my position because of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Mookie Betts has played center field before. He played 200 plus innings in center field back in 2021. That was 3 years ago. I know that. He played a ton.
He
like
did.
2015, he was a primary center fielder. So early in his career, he got lots of reps in center field. So it's not something that's entirely foreign to him. Obviously, right field has been his primary position, 1,200 innings out there, or 2,000 innings, in 2022 and 2023 in right field. But, look, we know he's a plus guy, no matter where you put him. And center field's an important position. So could they get creative and say, hey, give us a month and a half out there, get us into the postseason and give us a runway? Because it's either that or, you're looking at some guys whose bats you don't want anywhere near your lineup.
Right. There's plenty of those. But yeah, he's going to you want gold gloves at as many positions as possible. He is a gold glove right fielder. So is Jason Hayward, but that was when he was younger. He's still fine out there, but it's not the same as Mookie being Mookie out in that field. So then, and when you have guys like Nick Ahmed and Tommy Edman actually was a gold glove second baseman. So if you can put them in those positions to succeed and have the best spot, we also have to see what Tommy Edman is in the major, like with the Dodgers, because he hasn't played in a full year. Is there any information that you've seen just from Dodger Blue about whether or not he's going to be able to play this weekend or if it's next week?
It sounds like there's still some time. He was on a rehab assignment. So I think he got traded on Monday. Tuesday, he was set from St. Louis's perspective. He was going to start playing defense. His rehab assignment had been strictly as a designated hitter. The expectation was that Tuesday he was going to play defense. He got traded on Monday. So that didn't happen. He's been with the Dodgers since. So as far as I know, he has not gone back out on a rehab assignment yet. But the expectation from everybody that we talked to on the St. Louis side was that nobody's really expecting that to be a huge issue. I mean, obviously the ankle is what they're worried about, but I don't think it's worry from oh man, he might not be back for another month. I think it could be 2 weeks. When I talked to Katie Wu from The Athletic, she said August 16th, the Dodgers play at the Cardinals. And so she kind of circled that date as, is he back maybe a series before that potentially? But I imagine everybody's going to be motivated for him to be back and ready for that one.
I think everybody in Los Angeles is motivated for him to get back as soon as possible, because trading for a guy that's on the IL or is in a rehab assignment, that's always it's just a mess. We have too many guys that are there. But I mean, besides that, we should have everybody here now, though, right? You should get, besides Edman, you should have Ahmed Rosario. You should have, obviously Michael Kopech is here. Flaherty starting tomorrow. So everybody's pretty much here. Of the guys that they, Kiermaier. So, but isn't he, like you said, yes, he's retiring at the end of the year and he has zero bat. He has zero bat.
It's worse than Kike bat.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. You're you're not anti anybody. I feel like you're an anti Kike guy though.
I mean, guys that are at the bottom, I tend to be Kike's interesting. I'm trying to think who I'm the most. I mean, I was anti Chris Taylor for most of this season. Had to eat my crow on that one. I don't think I was alone. Not the biggest Kevin Biggio fan, although he's played some pretty good defense at first base.
He's looked good.
I'll give him some credit.
His bat's coming alive too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think realistically for this team to get where they're going to get to, I think guys like Kike and Biggio and Nick Ahmed are all I would be surprised if all three of them are still in the Dodgers organization at the end of the season, just because the roster crunch that's coming. I think Kiermaier's in the same bucket, by the way. I don't know if Kiermaier's a lock to be on this team for the entirety of the year. So I just think those guys Kike at least has some playoff moments. If you gave me Kike as a pinch hitter in the NLDS, I'd kind of throw out the regular season numbers and say, I don't hate it. Right. I wouldn't say the same for the rest of those guys. So, and, Chris Taylor, who knows what his injury is, Miguel Rojas. So I think there's a lot of variability, even on some of those role players that had been healthy that maybe make, a Kike Hernandez, a Nick Ahmed, a Kevin Biggio a little bit more valuable in the short term.
So it pretty much seems like if Kiermaier is going to make the postseason roster, I mean, obviously we haven't seen him yet, it's going to be as a late inning defensive replacement in center field. That's basically when you need to hold the lead and you need the best outfield possible.
Yeah.
You're going to throw Kiermaier out there.
Yeah.
So that's
and
the
is
best
that worth a roster spot? I think is the big question. Like, because Rojas is, potentially could be in the same role where, I know his bat's been good. He's been injured, but like, do you really want Miguel Rojas taking big at bats in the postseason after this year? Maybe, but like he's been better than Kiermaier. But I think you've got a couple of those guys. So it becomes a question of how many of those guys do you actually want to put on your 13-man roster, especially if you're going to run platoons at a couple of positions and you might need some pinch hitters. Do you really want to fill up your bench with, Kiermaier's just there for defense? Rojas is primarily a defense guy. Jason Hayward, does he get a spot? I mean, you just have a lot of these questions of how many do you trust offensively? You need to have at least 2 or 3 guys on the bench you trust.
Right. And I think Jason Hayward actually seems like one of the guys that you might, because he's not great offensively, obviously, but when he gets a hold of a ball, he has a ton of power. So if he actually gets one, like you can see, he has not the same power as Shohei, but it comes off the bat and it just flies.
Yeah.
So I think he still has that ability. So I would probably end up giving it, and you need a right fielder that isn't a good right fielder if you do want to move Mookie to second base on a certain series or whatever happens to be. But yeah, it's gonna be very, very interesting what happens down the stretch.
Yeah.
But just a last thing about this weekend. I know I'm switching up real fast here, but I want to go back to Jack Flaherty.
Yeah.
What are you actually expecting from him on Saturday? Is he going to be the guy that we're saying, okay, good, we have that number 2 guy, or is it going to be kind of like, I don't know what we got there?
He's been awesome lately. So I have no reason to believe anything other than that we're going to see the guy who's awesome. I don't think there's going to be an acclimation period. There's no rust to shake off. I mean, he did skip a turn in the rotation, but for a guy that's, he's 28, but he's been in the majors for a while, I don't think that's going to really mess him up. It's a nice soft landing spot in Oakland, so it's not necessarily the pressure of being in Dodger Stadium for his first start as a hometown kid. It's against the A's, who we know are not, one of the best teams in Major League Baseball necessarily. So I think it's a great landing spot for him Saturday night in between, not Friday, not Sunday. So I think he's going to be really good. We talked about this whole back injury thing, and he got shots. But like the part that everyone kind of says in whispered tones as they read that article is that he's had like a 1.7 ERA in the 3 starts since he came back from the cortisone shots or whatever he got. So I think he's going to be awesome. I'm expecting, 6 innings, 1 or 2 runs, and everybody to come out of that being like, yeah, let's freaking go.
Is there any thought in your mind that maybe because how Glasnow has been pitching, he's not been the pitcher that we saw at the beginning of the year? He has been giving up runs. He did go 7 innings the other night, but he's giving up runs and he's giving up some home runs. If Flaherty is just lights out through the rest of the season, could you see Flaherty becoming the number 1 starter in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Glasnow, look, if you just look at some of the baseline numbers, like I know he has the reputation that he has, and rightfully so. I mean, he's got a 3.5 ERA this year, which is good, but it's not great. Flaherty, right, I think is like 2.95. So he's been better from an earned runs perspective. Obviously the whip with Flaherty is really good. The strikeout rate is really good. So Glasnow has the same whip, so they allow the same number of base runners. Glasnow strikes a few more guys out, walks a few more. So I think they're very similar as far as overall production reasons to be optimistic. But to answer your question, I think the guy that I believe the Dodgers are getting, there's not a gap this year right now between Tyler Glasnow and Jack Flaherty. I don't know if Flaherty is going to like officially become the number 1 guy, but I think he'll be just as good, if not slightly better than Glasnow for sure.
And that will be very, very helpful to the Dodgers come the postseason. So we'll see what's going to go on there. If Parker, you want to jump in here for this last little bit here, we're going to close it all out. And thank you very much. But Jeff, thank you a ton for just doing this the last 2 days. We always love when you're on here, but let us know where we can find everything from you.
Yeah, if you're into stuff like this, we've got a live post game tonight. Dodger Blue 1958 over on YouTube. Myself and Anthony Witrato will be live as soon as the game ends. Hopefully a Gavin Stone gem, hopefully easing some of the concerns. So check that out. Subscribe to the channel. We got tons of videos. There's like a bucket list interview. I don't want to spoil who it is, but it might be posting today, if not in the next few days, that we got to do. So Dodger Blue 1958 on YouTube. Check that out. And then, of course, DodgerBlue.com. And you can find me at Jeff Spiegel.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Jeff. This was a great episode. The chat was popping. Everyone was being interactive. We love to see it. Keep on doing that. Come on in. every weekday, 9:30 to 9:55 here on the Blue Review. I've been Parker Bell, alongside Greg Bergman, and of course, one of our favorite guests to have, Jeff Spiegel. Thank you again for joining us. Everyone have a great weekend. We will see you Monday, and let's hope these Dodgers handle business in Oakland.
Sweet.